Something that you find in the early Lutheran sources, and this isn't really just early Lutheran sources either, this is pretty consistent throughout the tradition, but you find it in the Confessions, is that there is a distinction that one finds between pastors and teachers, or doctors of the church. There is a reason why Martin Luther is often referred to as Dr. Luther. And you actually see these distinguished in the Confessions themselves. So there's a right calling for a pastor and there's a right calling for a teacher. Now, they often overlap, but they are not always identical. So Philip Melanchthon is called as a teacher. He was not ordained. And yet he wrote our confessional documents. So he was a layperson in the sense that he didn't have ordination. So he wasn't presiding over the Eucharist. That's kind of an interesting thing to have somebody who is a layperson write so much of your confessions. The reason for this is that it was recognized that the role of teacher is also an ecclesiastical office. And so when you're called a doctor of the church, we're not talking about doctor in not like official sense of Rome where you have a specific number of just doctors of the church, but a doctor in the church in the broader sense is one who has been commissioned by the church itself to receive a doctorate for the purpose of teaching theology beyond the local congregation. Luther often spoke in his own writing about his being called as a doctor. That was his impetus for speaking to issues to the broader church and publishing far beyond the local congregation, because he recognized that there's something more universal about this call to be a doctor, right? To be a congregational pastor, you're called to serve that congregation. Like you're a pastor in the church as a whole universally, but your calling is uniquely really to that parish. If you're called as a doctor, you are given a very particular calling to teach far beyond the church. And so that's something that you find Luther using to validate his own teaching and mode of teaching and why he does what he does so broadly.